The graph here depicts your balance in dollars of some investment which you put into an account at a fixed interest rate versus the number of years for which you keep the money in that account. So that is going to be an exponentially increasing amount if you think about it, because you're always going to increase your amount by a certain percentage each year. And the rate, dB over dt, is going to represent the change in balance divided by the number of years you keep the money in the account. So it's the rate of increase in your balance in dollars per year at a given instant. We're looking here at the 10-year balance that you're going to have if you invest your money at rate R. For example, well, here's R on this axis, and here's G of R, your 10-year balance. For example, you might invest $1,000. If you invested at 5%, you're going to have some balance. If you invested at 10%, you're going to have a larger balance at the end of 10 years. Now, we're asked to interpret a couple of things. G of 5. What's G of 5? Well, G of 5 is the 10-year balance at the 5% interest rate. So if 5 is here on your interest rate axis, and we come up to the curve and across, and we get G of 5, the balance after 10 years, if you have a 5% interest rate. We are also asked to interpret G prime of 5, or the fact that G prime of 5 equals 165. Okay, so if G prime of 5 equals 165, what's that mean? Well, G prime is the instantaneous rate at which this function changes. 5 is your interest rate, so at the 5-year mark, G prime of 5 is going to be the instantaneous rate at which your balance, your 10-year balance, is changing at the 5% rate. That's going to be represented, of course, by the slope of the tangent line to the curve. And to say that G prime of 5 equals 165 is to say that the rise, which represents the change in your 10-year balance, divided by the run, which represents the change in your interest rate, is 165. That means that you have $165 in your 10-year balance per percentage point. So we say it's the rate at which the 10-year balance increases with respect to R when R equals 5%, and that's going to be measured in dollars of 10-year balance per percentage point. So for example, if instead of 5% you go to 5.25%, at $165 of 10-year balance per percentage point, well, 1/4 of a percentage point is going to give you 1/4 of $165 difference, or $41.25, of 1/4 of 165. That will be your approximate change in your 10-year balance if you can get 5.25% as opposed to 5%. When you're taking, or when you're investing this money, you ask yourself, well, somebody across town is going to give me 1/4% more. Is it worth $41.25 cents, $41.25, 10 years down the road to make a trip across town? Now that's not going to be your exact change between the 5 and the 5.25% interest, because that's the change along this tangent line. We've talked about the tangent line and the differential, and that's a differential approximation to the actual change that you're going to have along this curve. However, it's going to be pretty close for 1/4% run here. The difference of 1/4% is going to give you very close to $41 in increased balance after 10 years.